Hey everybody, this is Chris Brown, your real estate professional and marketing entrepreneur. Welcome back to another episode. We are bringing you more value on building generational wealth and having the understanding of having professional partners on your team. And today we have Attorney Karmika Rubin. She is a real estate professional real estate attorney here in the Tampa Bay area. This is my area. So I'm going to have her and I are going to kind of have some conversation today, just going over the importance of having a real estate attorney on your team and understand the value that they actually bring, because I've had situations and I've seen other people have situations that if they would have had a real estate attorney in mind or already in place, they would have avoided some big mistakes. Some people, unfortunately, may have lost their properties due to this. And like I said, this is building generational wealth. So have that mindset, having professionals supporting you that are in your circle. And without further ado, Ms. Karmika, how are you doing today?
Hello, Mr. Brown. Thank you. I'm doing well, doing well. Thank you for allowing me to share this awesome platform with you. And how are you?
Oh, I cannot complain. I am having a ball. I am having a ball. So definitely, like I said, I definitely appreciate you being on board and adding some value to this platform. So appreciate you greatly. So one of the things is, tell us a little bit about yourself, some of the services that you provide. I told them that you're a real estate attorney, but what is a real estate attorney? What is it that you do?
Well, thank you for asking. To start off, I am the owner of my law firm here in the lovely Tampa Bay area, downtown St. Pete. And I am a real estate attorney, which we have various hats that we wear, whether it's dealing with a homeowner or dealing with an investor. So this platform is very important to me because I'm able to share more about the business aspects of real estate and real estate investing, although we do provide legal services to homeowners. And those services do vary from drafting litigation and also from structuring the actual entities that I'm sure we'll get into in a moment.
Yeah. So, and that's a mouthful. When I first heard of real estate attorneys, some people just like, they just do contracts or they just take people to court. But it's like you said, it's structuring. If I'm understanding you correctly, you do some structuring, like you said, you do the litigation aspect as well. Basically, a lot of things that a lot of people don't do and aren't aware of, especially if they are trying to be in this business as, building generational wealth. Now, as a real estate attorney, if I'm talking to someone, what value or relevance would you say a real estate attorney has in today's time?
There's a lot. There's a lot. The first thing I would say for anyone who is entering into this arena, remember that, like you also stated, this is a business. And when you are structuring a business, you will need an attorney either before, during, or after your transactions. The majority of them, you would need some type of legal interactions. A lot of people, from my experience, will rely on each other, other investors, which is not terrible. But the time to try what you're putting together, when that time comes, when it may not go the way you thought it should go, attorneys become extremely vital. They can help negotiate, reduce stress. They can also prevent litigated matters. And they can also bring understanding and clarity on how the transaction should go, especially if you're being creative with your investing.
Okay. And that's key. I don't know if people really caught on to that, but I know in some circles, people rely on other individuals to get information. It's great to have a mentor, but any mentor will tell you that you're going to need to have those professional individuals on your team, because it sometimes comes to a legal matter. And if you want to be heard in those situations, you're going to need an attorney. I don't think just me just showing up to court as myself is going to work too well. So I definitely encourage people, this is, like I said, it's going to be continuous value that we speak in regards to. So I do have a question for you. Well, actually, I have a couple of questions for you. So a couple of questions that did come up, people have asked me in the past and as of recently. One of them being is, what are a few tips on how to protect someone's real estate asset?
That's a great question. When you think about protection, you think about layers. You think about the more layers there are, the more protection that is given to you. A lot of investors will definitely try to purchase property, and I know this may run into some other questions. They try to, purchase property in their names or in the name of an entity, but the more layers that you have, the more protection there is. So whether you're establishing a limited liability corporation or a corporation itself, you just want to create layers. Even if it's thinking about having a land trust that kind of takes you and moves you as an individual as far away from the transaction as possible.
Okay. And that makes sense. Just basically having that buffer, because I know when I started in real estate, a lot of it, I was a novice to a lot of it. So, and that kind of leads into another question. I know when I first started, I purchased a couple of homes in my name. And then, my whole thing was, if I was going to get bigger in this and do more of this, I wanted to educate myself. And I was able to find out more about what you just referenced about that buffering and keeping that, keeping yourself out of the picture. So what would be your feedback on if someone should, if you could elaborate a little bit more, if someone should buy a property in their name,
I would definitely encourage them to purchase the property. First, establish an entity. Establish a separate entity. That's the first thing. Try to avoid putting it in your name because that does expose you individually to potential lawsuits. If there's other judgments against you personally, they can come to try to make you sell that property to satisfy any future judgments or even past judgments. Judgments are good for 20 years, 10 years you renew, another 10 years. So if you have any investment property outside of your homestead, they view that as a commercial property. Well, I just have another home. No, that's a commercial property that is not homestead protected, that can be sold in the event of any type of judgment that comes against you. So if your name is attached, you are easily identifiable when you go to the clerk of the court website, when you're looking at public records. They can easily identify who you are and what assets that are in your name, what deeds have your name on it. So I definitely encourage to establish an entity, allow that entity to have ownership of the property, to sell, to mortgage. I definitely encourage that, to avoid putting it in your name. If you do have it in your name, it is not too late to convey that through a quit claim deed or to place it into a trust. My preference for investors is the land trust, which definitely gives you a lot more protection. And then also establish, as I said, different entities, whether it's an LLC or a corporation.
Mm-hmm. And that's actually what I ended up doing with a couple of properties that I had that I initially purchased. I kind of jumped out of the gate, and a little bit about my story. I owned 3 homes, and I lived in an apartment. So, but those homes were cash flowing, and those homes were paying my bills. So, like I said, when I first got involved, I was a novice, but it wasn't a bad thing. But it was just also encouraging. It was a good thing that I continued to educate myself, because that's when I found out that, hey, I keep myself exposed with those homes because those homes were in my name. And, you know, like one of the spooky stories that everyone would say is like, hey, say if you got in a car accident and the accident was your fault. You know, we live in a state of Florida where people are sue happy. So, so it's one of those things where it's like they'll see, you know, if you have car insurance, but then they're also going to dig to see what assets you have. And obviously you stand out like a sore thumb if your name is on a bunch of properties that are out there, because then they're going to be like, oh, that person's got money, and you know we're going to go for it all. So now you kind of said something about investors and land trust. Now, is there with the different entities, you kind of mentioned that land trust, that's more of a preference for investors. Did I understand correctly?
Yes. Now, I want to key in on this, and I hope that those who are viewing really understand this is a business. This is a business. I'm going to say it again. This is business. And because it's a business, it should be handled as a business. And when you are putting, when you're putting down your structure, just keep that in mind, that everything you do, it is, although you may gain personally, it's not you. It is a business. A business should have a business name. It should have goals. It should have structure, and it should have protection. With the land trust is not necessarily a business structure like the structure of your company, but it's an additional tool that will allow ownership of a particular property. You buy a piece of property, you convey it by a deed to a trustee who governs that land trust. Land trust is the owner of the property that's governed by the trustee to the benefit of whomever, which could be you. It is a business. You do gain at the end of it, but it's just a matter of how you maneuver to get to the same result. But just keep in mind that it is a business, but it doesn't have your name on it. Keep the business a business.
Exactly. And I like how you were touching that, because it was bringing back some memories. I think as I was managing a couple of my properties, obviously, initially, and that was the big difference, because I technically, once I made that switch, I technically didn't own it, but I was a benefit of it, you know, in the long run. So, you know, when I was signing documents or rental agreements, it was with the property trust. It wasn't with me. And that's what made a difference. And it also made a difference, as in, at least on the property management side, when I was trying to do it myself. I teach people to go ahead and hire a management company. Don't try to manage it yourself. But for a period there, just going through the trenches of real estate, I was managing a number of properties. And with that being said, that was my buffer. So it wasn't technically me. It wasn't that they were writing checks directly to me. They were writing it to a trust. And that kept that buffer and that barrier. And that actually made things a bit easier for me, because even being a property manager, you get to hear a lot of stories. And sometimes you know, they say the best property manager out there, people don't like, put it that way. So it's just, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, you're getting things done, but at the same time, like you said, it is a business. You have to treat it like a business. And that's some of the things that we go through. So a big question, another big question, they're all big questions.
Oh yeah.
A big question that came up was, it states, are my personal assets protected if a contractor gets injured on my home that's owned in an LLC?
So I'm going to back it up a moment to properly answer that, and go to the difference between an LLC and to be incorporated.
Okay.
Incorporation definitely has a better secure bubble to secure you, because it's not you, it's a separate entity. So it's not you, you're not even involved. But the LLC, although it's one of the favorite and most popular vehicle for investors, it does have the potential, a greater potential for you to expose your personal assets in that particular scenario. So if someone is injured on a property, if someone is injured on the property that is owned by your LLC, the first thing they're going to do is to see, well, do you have homeowners insurance no matter who the owner is? So having that insurance is a great buffer. But as mentioned in your previous example that a lot of people refer to is the car accident and where the insurance proceeds is not enough. If there's not enough and it's an LLC, this is a limited liability company, then yes, your assets could be exposed if the insurance coverage is not enough, and if the assets of the LLC is not enough to compensate or to fulfill that judgment. So your personal assets could be at risk when you have an LLC and someone is injured on the property owned by the LLC, because when you go to sunbiz.org, they look for who is the member, who is the owner of the LLC. And if the LLC is you as a personal, as an individual, well, now you're hooked up. And they're like, okay, well, the LLC itself doesn't have enough assets, so let's go to the owner. And that's where you can be exposed in that particular scenario. But having a high level of buffer with insurance coverage is significant. That's very significant. Or having another entity to own the LLC may be a potential option.
Those layers. the layers. Yes, definitely. I've definitely had some conversations with some, I would say some seasoned investors, and they truly believe in the layers. They are layer heavy to the point where, hey, if you want to go through all those layers, you're going to spend way more money trying to figure out what's what in there. That you'll probably get back out. So yeah, definitely that is so key with that. Yeah, like I said, people are concerned, if they're building this fortune, you're building generational wealth. And if you're just planning to just do one deal, this may not apply, a lot of this. But like you said, my mindset is building generational wealth, and it's going to take a number of transactions. And it's more than just getting an asset. It's about maintaining it and keeping that asset. This is not obviously if you're going through a lot of this, you may do some flips, you may do some buy and holds, and having a real estate attorney for both of those types of transactions is going to be key, because you never know what may happen or what may come up. So definitely appreciate that.
If I may add real quickly, because you kind of touched on something. Law is a whole nother language. Law is Latin mixed with a couple other things. It has its own language. And when you start to cross into what's legal and what's not legal and what to do, you need an interpreter. You need that interpreter. A word that may seem, may be defined this way in layman's term has a completely different meaning legally. So definitely understanding that getting into real estate investing, that having a real estate attorney is extremely vital, even if it's just a consultation, to make sure they understand that the person or that they understand what they are doing. When I say the word convey, well, what does that really mean? What is the definition of convey? Well, it means to transfer title. It means that this is the legal way to transfer title. And in my professional experience, people don't get that right. And they rely on others who say, well, we're in the profession, whether it's a mortgage broker or real estate agent, that though they're very knowledgeable, but if the person themselves don't get it, if that person gets it wrong, now you've gotten it wrong. And you may not know you've gotten it wrong until the deal goes bad, or you get a letter saying, we can't record this document. Where's the legal description? Well,
right.
description.
Right. You're just like, what is that? Yeah.
What is that? What is that? Just some little basics that can be missed without malice intent.
Okay. And that is so key, because I've definitely have sat on the other side. It hadn't happened to me directly, but there's a question that's asked, and on the other side, the individual that's making the transaction, they're like, they ask that question, what is such and such? And they look at their representative, and then it's just like, okay, somebody didn't understand something, or somebody didn't go over something. And that's, that's not a good position to be in. It just makes you feel a little, definitely makes you feel uncomfortable, especially when you're at the closing table. So definitely. All right, and one last question here we have is, when is it the best time to hire an attorney? Is it before, during, or after a real estate transaction is established? What's your thoughts on that?
It is better to be prepared and to know and understand the process. So I strongly suggest and encourage to seek out a real estate attorney ahead of time to say, this is what I'm seeking to do. This is my goal. This is my objective. Am I in the right direction? If you're already in the middle of it, or you've already had a couple of transactions, or if something didn't go right, then you can still always bring in a licensed attorney to assist. But I encourage the beginning of it, just so that the person can avoid more attorney fees. Because if you have to go in and correct it, it's going to take more time, and it's definitely going to take more effort to correct that. And just to give you a little bit more of insight of what a real estate attorney can do, because some say, oh, we'll bring you to the closing. Real estate attorneys, we draft deeds, mortgages, notes. We go through those items. We also assist with drafting joint venture agreements, partnership agreements, sometimes shareholders agreements if we're establishing companies or entities for you. So there's so many different little agreements that can go into the buying and selling of a property, especially if you're dealing with multiple entities. And I had, something recently where the parties knew each other, but they wanted to enter into a joint venture with their businesses. But throughout their discussions, they kept thinking of each other as an individual. And I said, you have to change your mindset. It's two companies that you represent that's entering into this. But by coming to me being a real estate attorney in advance, we were able to literally lay out the proper type of entity, make sure both of them were secured, answer any questions, so that when they have their first actual deal, it's more smoothly and less chaos with very little confusion. Because wants to profit out of their business. So a little bit now to save a lot later.
Right. And you just hit the nail on the head, because I know a lot of people, when they hear fees, they're like, whoo, the ears start burning. Just like, fees, but it's the long game and not the short game. And then that's one of the other things that we teach in these modules, is that if you're looking at different transactions and different deals, not every deal is a deal. And that, how I'm teaching them and showing individuals is that you're going to put your deal together a certain way so that you can be sure to be able to pay different professionals to represent you in your transaction. A lot of times people want to cut corners, and it's just like, well, I can still get this done if I don't do this. That's not the mindset to have, because if you want to cut corners, and in one of my modules, I tell people about one of my first rehabs. Actually, it was my first rehab. My very first rehab that I did, I cut some corners with the interview process with some contractors. And it's just that mindset of just, hey, I'm gonna cut corners on this and cut corners on that and still get it done. and it ended up biting me in the butt. But luckily I did the first initial deal structure the right way. So I was able to make a couple of mistakes. And I was in a fortunate situation that since it took longer, the market kind of increased. So the margin was also increased. So it kind of made up for it. But,
That works.
so, but yeah, that's what I try to tell people, you know, learn from mistakes. I won't say I've done the most type of transactions. I said I've done enough to know better. And, you know, I have my mistakes, talk to other individuals, and I call it OPM, other people's mistakes, you know, learn from that. Everyone's going to have successes. Listen to the successes, but ask questions about their misfortunes, you know, and I think those are the learning opportunities when we're dealing in this type of business. So, Karmika, I won't let you go until you can let people know if someone wanted to contact you because they're curious, they want to know what's going on. They're in the middle, you know, getting ready to start up a transaction or something along those lines. How can they find you? How can someone find you?
Awesome. Well, we are definitely located in the lovely downtown St. Pete. We encourage for people to give us a call. The contact number is 727-512-8261, 727-512-8261. And we also encourage for them to follow us on social media. We have a Facebook page. They can go and like the page, the law offices of KV Rubin, PA. They can like the Facebook page. And the other is they can go to our website and subscribe to our monthly newsletter. We have just a simple newsletter letting you know if we have any upcoming activities. And the website is www.rubinslaw.com. And that's RUBINS like Sam, LAW.com. And we definitely are available to provide the information and knowledge. And if I can do a quick shout out, we do have an upcoming Zoominar on February 9th, 2021. And if you go to our website, www.rubinslaw.com, you can register for that, and it won't be the last. So follow us and we will keep you informed on what's going on with the law behind real estate.
All right, all right. And that's February 9th, correct? You said?
Yes.
February 9th, guys. Yep. So be sure to check that out. Look up Attorney Rubin. She's doing some great things. A lot of knowledge, a lot of information that is being shared. So I definitely encourage you guys to follow up with Attorney Rubin. Reach out, take a look at that course or the event that her Zoominar that she is doing. I think that's going to, I'm actually, I think I've, I don't know if I registered. I know I saw it on social media. I tinkered it. I'm following it. So, but definitely looking forward to that as well. So, all right. Well, there you go, guys. Once again, this is Chris Brown, your real estate professional and marketing entrepreneur, bringing you continued value in the real estate world, building generational wealth. And we had our special guest today, Ms. Attorney Karmika Rubin. We appreciate her coming today. Thank you once again. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And to all those out there, thank you, appreciate you. And get involved, get engaged, and make sure you're building a super team with professionals. Take care.